basically the elevator muscle here, and the lip doesn't rise as high. You know, when I treated her the first time, I did, you know, she already had pretty good occlusion, and basically, you know, I did some alignment issues on her. She works for orthodontist. She's going to orthodontist for free. You know, I treated her. It took about 8 months, and her occlusion was so-so. When I look at this, you know, overbite's not, midline's wrong, but I want these teeth to overlap more. But we wore a bunch of rubber bands, but these teeth were touching. And they were small enough I couldn't really retract the lower incisors more. And we didn't want to build up the upper incisors more, but that's my 30-kind. But I couldn't really get these to overlap as much as I wanted to. She was having some TMD issues. Basically, when she would close, she would hit these back teeth, and she would have to distract her condyles a little bit to rotate to get her teeth all the way closed. So during the course of treatment, she wore a bunch of rubber bands and all, but that was about as good as we got. And you know, we got done for years. She was happy. Well, I started doing the anchors, and she saw an article that was on my desk, and it was about fixing cants. And she asked me, "Well, hey, can you do something about that?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, we can try and see what happens." So we put braces on her, and she's got an anchor here and an anchor on this side. And basically what we did is we just intruded the teeth on that side. And you can see once we put braces on and we started moving things around, her jaw repositioned and she opened back up in the front. And as we started going through treatment, that's 9 weeks. 9 weeks, the back teeth are moving up. These teeth are starting to overlap more. Certainly not where we need to be yet, but getting there. And this is where she ended up finishing up. And if you take a look here, now she's got the proper amount of overbite, and I did not have to wear vertical elastics in the front. Instead of only being able to bring the front teeth down, now I can move back teeth up. So by doing that, I was able to get rid of her cant. Now when she smiles big, and not just a smile, but a laughing smile. And that's the true way to tell if someone's, what their smile looks like, is get them to laugh. Because everybody's got their pose smile. That's meaningless. But when someone laughs, that's when you truly see what their smile's like. And when she laughs, you don't see the gum tissue on that side. I matched the cant of her interpupillary line and her lip. I moved her teeth so that they're asymmetric to match everything else. And that happened to help her bite. She has no more TMD issues. Anybody remember this play? You do?
It's where he broke Christian Ponder's collarbone.
Yeah, put him out. I mean, what was he thinking? Did he really gonna stop that guy? Yeah. Different type facial patterns. We've got different type facial patterns, and this one on your right is what we call hyperdivergent or dolichofacial pattern, tall face. This is a brachyfacial patient, short face. Everybody's, you know, somewhere in between. And this particular type patient has really short facial height. There's something called the rule of thirds. This third should equal this third should equal this third. Well, this third on her is shorter than, if you take a look at this person, this third is taller. And the reality of it is, in this type case, we end up with a problem with the teeth overlapping too much in the front. In that type case, we run into a problem with teeth not overlapping enough in the front. And basically, when we break it down, it's more than just the teeth. The teeth are in bones. The bones are influenced by muscles. Why do we develop the way that we do? There's lots of different theories out there, functional matrix theory, lots of different theories out there, but the reality of it is that your genetics don't necessarily make your bones grow a certain way. I mean, they give you the potential. But your muscles, they also determine kind of how your muscles are positioned on the bone and what type of muscles you have. The muscles really influence the bone growth. There's a bump back here. Right here. Everybody's got one. You know what it is? Does anybody know what it is? Okay. Your teacher. But you get it, mastoid process. That's your mastoid process.
That's what it was. It's been 4 years since.
What attaches to the mastoid? Wow, sternocleidomastoid. Okay? And when you're an infant, it's flat. And as you develop and the muscle pulls on it, that bump gets bigger and bigger. And the reality of it is that the muscle on this particular patient is attached more forward. And the different muscle strength. This particular patient, it's keeping the bone growth in check here, but the bone tends to bend and grow down this way. You end up with a taller face patient in this particular type of facial pattern. When you look at this one, well, the muscle's at a different angle. Different degrees, different when they measure the tonality, one of those things. When they measure the muscle strength, they're different between those two. And basically in this type of patient, because the muscle's oriented more vertical and it's a stronger muscle, you get a shorter facial height. And in this particular patient, the jaw rotates and you get this anagonial notch. And it changes, we look and we see, well, why do faces grow? Now that we are able to do more detailed analysis, we get a better sense of why patients grow the way they do. And this particular patient was one I treated years ago. And taking a look at her, what would you say? Is she a tall face patient or a short face patient? Tall? Okay. You can't have two. She's a tall face patient. She's got a lot of crowding. Well, when you unravel crowding, teeth go forward. The more they go forward, the less they overlap. So you better believe I'm taking out teeth on her because I want the teeth to come back. I want them to overlap more. She's got pretty full lips. She's got a lot of crowding. She's a tall face patient that says, hey, take out teeth. You're going to need all the help you can get. She's got open bites on the sides. Guess what? Teeth don't overlap on the sides. Tongue sticking out. Teeth gross you out. All right. Here we are, 3 years into treatment. Okay, teeth are straight, but I can't get them to overlap. I'm having her wear rubber bands. She's wearing rubber bands, and she's wearing them. I mean, a lot of times we ask people to wear rubber bands, and we don't really know if they're wearing them or not. And you get a sense where people are or not, and and they're really not doing themselves any good by lying to you. But the fact of the matter is, I know she's wearing them. She's wearing elastics. I'm not getting there because her face is growing the other direction. And the teeth are straight, but I need these to overlap more. So I sit down with mom and dad and I say, you know what? We got some options here. We always have options. Options are to take them off, live with what we got, make retainers. They're not as stable. This is not the ideal occlusion. This is not what we're shooting for. We haven't gotten there yet. But we're running into something that orthodontics alone is not going to get there. What are our options to fix it? Surgery. Move the upper jaw up in the back. And as you do that, the lower jaw, the back teeth aren't hitting, the lower jaw rotates closed. Okay? Or anchors, move the back teeth up. Well, I can tell you I'd never done this before. This is the very first one I did to close an open bite. And we're learning more why open bites are the way they are, but basically in this particular case, I did my analysis and I went back and looked. I said, you know what? Look at the notch, how it's changed as she's grown over the past 3 years. The notch here, the notch here. She's growing, and that clockwise double facial pattern, that notch has gotten worse. The notch is just an indication, kind of how that muscle's attached, like I showed you on that other on the MRI. But basically, we measure the rotation. We measure the angle here to the angle here and the angle. We got all these different things we use to analyze and see how the teeth fit together, how the bones fit together, and that's the soft tissue and everything else. But basically, what that tells me is that she's been growing away from it. So although she's been wearing rubber bands, she's been going the opposite direction. We've not been making up ground. So basically, after 6 months of him and home, we finally came up with the decision to put some anchors in. So we put some anchors on the outside and inside. And what I did for 2 years, I mean, she'd been in braces for 3 years, but really wearing those elastics for 2 years and not really gaining any ground. 6 weeks, I'm here. 12 weeks, I'm here. 18 weeks. These are overlapping, no elastics at all. The front teeth are now overlapping, the back teeth are open. I've overdone it. I've intruded them intentionally because we're worried about stability on these because this is kind of a new thing. We've always done it with surgery, and we, got a long history of what happens with surgery. But what if you move the teeth up? Are they as stable? Why did they end up coming down in the first place? And so I overdid it. I held it that way for a while before we took the braces off. And basically you can look at her facial profile. This is, She's got improved lip form. As the lower jaw rotates up and forward, guess what? Chin and nose move closer together. Lower lip's attached to the chin, upper lip's attached to the base of the nose. As they move closer together, lips get full. So just by rotating her up and close, her lip profile's gotten better. And basically, this is where we took the braces off. We got good overbite and overjet in the front. I've left this intentionally open. These teeth have settled. The space there is closed. This is locked in. We left these anchors in for a little while just to make sure we didn't have to go back in. Staying perfectly stable. And she's been out for almost 3 years now. 2 years. I don't even know what game that is. This is another open bite case. This one's a surgery case, plain and simple. Weren't going to do surgery. I had no intentions of doing this with anchors, but they weren't going to do surgery, and so we tried to close the open bite. He's actually, I have had geographical success with him. He's moved to Atlanta, so I haven't had to finish him. But the reality of it is that we did anchors with an appliance, and basically we were gaining some progress, you know, through 9 weeks, and you get a sense of what I was talking about, the back teeth going up. And as the back teeth go up, the lower jaw rotates more close. That's the idea, the concept behind it. Unfortunately, he, over here, this is where he was 9 weeks into it. And when he left my practice, 6 months or so later, he looked about the same way after we took the implants out. We couldn't get it all the way closed. Yes, sir. Did you have another reflection. That's PCU. Enzo. This is another open bite case. Her father is a radiologist, and basically she was a transfer case to me. I think they moved from Colorado, and she had braces on when I saw her. She looked good, you know. There's a few minor things, and I said, oh, this isn't going to take all that long, you know, 9 to 12 months, and I'll finish it up. And I charged them a small fee to do that. You know, I wouldn't think it's going to take that long. It took me a couple years. She was opening up on me, and we, you know, got her closed finally, and things looked pretty good. And then over time, she opened back up. Now, she opened back up for a couple reasons, but the main reason is her tongue. I want everybody to swallow for me. Okay. Now, I want you to do it again. I want you to think about where your tongue is. Okay. Now, how many people's tongues in the roof of the mouth? Okay. How many people's tongues touching their top and bottom teeth in the front? Okay. Now, at rest, where's your tongue? When you're at rest, where's your tongue? Is it in the roof? Well, it's attached to the bottom, so it's always going to touch. When you close, is it touching the roof of your mouth? Yours isn't. Where's your tongue?
Touching the top of the bottom teeth, the inside edge of the bottom teeth.
Well, yeah, inside edge laterally, but where's the top of your tongue? Where's the tip of your tongue? Okay, let me be more specific. Where's the tip of your tongue? What does it touch? The anterior part of your tongue. Which part? Touch your bottom teeth? Okay. Your tongue, when you're an infant and you swallow, your tongue is between your gums. Okay? It helps you create suction around the nipple. Your tongue kind of cradles everywhere to create suction. As teeth start to erupt, your swallowing pattern changes, and your tongue migrates to the roof of your mouth. Most people, when they swallow, their tongue goes up and back. So when they swallow, tongue goes up and back. What does that do? It helps you take food back to your mouth. Now, there's something called a tongue thrust. The tongue thrust, what you do is you push down and forward. So, teeth, for bone to remodel, it takes a constant force for about 8 hours for the bone morphology to change, the signal for the bone to start to remodel, to melt. Okay? So, a swallow alone isn't enough signal for someone for it to cause a change in teeth. But a posture and a swallow certainly is. So if most people, they